Most often, I hear this from laymen or new aspirants. They usually get confused on mass media, mass communication, and journalism. So, in my series of videos, you will be seeing and getting to acquaint yourself with that media studies, mass communication, and journalism are completely different things. Though we can consider that journalism is an integral part of mass communication, but they are not at all same. So any aspirant or anyone who wants to make a career in mass communication doesn't mean that the person will become a journalist. So before we go any further, what I'll do is to give you a small intro on what is media and what is mass communication. Now, whenever we talk about mass communication, the first thing we need to know is what is communication. So, communication basically is a piece of information which travels from one point to another. Now, from which place it originates or it starts, it's known as sender, and the place where it reaches the last point or the final point, it is known as receiver. Like the message is sent or the info is sent, and then the message is received, so the receiver. And through the medium by which this information or the message travels is known as medium, or in plural it is called media. So when we talk about mass communication, we actually talk that how a communication is made from one sender to received by many or masses. And when we study about media or media studies, we try to learn about the aspects of different medium like newspaper, radio, television, cinema, and to more often social media nowadays. So how this communication starts? Or can we just start a communication and deliver it to masses? No, we cannot. Every communication goes through two phases, or we can say two levels. One information or one communication cannot be directly made to the masses, like it have to go through the first step. So what are those steps? So the first step through which the communication goes through, first one is known as intrapersonal and the second one is interpersonal. Now what is intrapersonal? Intrapersonal communication are the communication where the sender and the receiver both are the same. That means when an information or a message is being perceived by a person, that person definitely needs to process it. Like what would be the percentage of information that needs to be carried forward? So this is basically the analysis of the piece of information that one have received and one want to continue or further it. That person will be doing an intrapersonal communication. And once this communication is done, then the person moves or the message moves to the second phase, that is interpersonal. That involves more than one person. That means it could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or the masses. So for any communication to start with, that will always begin with first, that is intrapersonal, and then later on it will move to the second phase, that is interpersonal. We can also take an example like a person who writes a journal, maintains a diary, or the overthinking which we have seen memes of nowadays. All these kind of communication are definitely intrapersonal, where the person tries to see, observe, analyze the communication or the information which he sees in front of him by himself. And later on, when he uses different kind of medium, maybe his WhatsApp or maybe Facebook wall through which he is communicating that piece of information or communication to group of friends on his list, that will become interpersonal. So once we are done with the levels or the steps of communication, now we move on to classification of communication. But classification of communication on the basis of what? So this classification is basically done in three divisions. The one, phatic, the second, personal, and the third, intimate. The phatic stage is usually when we start a communication. The communication where we usually say hi, hello, how you doing, how are you. Basically, it's an accelerate to the communication where we try to move on to the second division, that is your personal. In personal stage, we try to get acquainted with the more information or details about the other person. See, we are making an interpersonal communication here. So definitely knowing the whereabouts of the other people or the other person you are making the communication with becomes vital. So in this stage, we try to get some more information, how your day have been, how you're doing, what kind of job you do, the basic details, by which we can understand about the other person well enough. And once it is done, we move on to the next stage or the next division, which is intimate. Once we get the information about the minor and the basic details of the other person we are making an interpersonal communication with, we move on to furthering our empathetic behavior now, where we try to actually relate to the person's circumstances or the situation. And this stage is also being observed in communication which are done in mass communication, specifically in news media, because here we try to communicate the information or the messages which mean something to the people, which has some emotional or empathetic mechanism which can associate the people and the masses with the news. Next video we will try to learn about different medium, the 5 media which is used in today's world, and what has been the acceptability of these medium in the general life of the people.